working out. No, you look like buffer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, kind of have a crush on you.
Oh, you don't need to, darling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of 2Gay Mats. It's Matt Steele.
It's Matt Palmer.
And it's February.
Yes.
It's Valentine's Day-ish.
It's Valentine's month.
It's Valentine's month.
Yes.
We couldn't do a video for Valentine's Day week
Yes.
because I was out of town.
Where were you?
I was in Florida shooting a short film.
Tallahassee.
I know, Tallahassee. There's a big party at Tallahassee.
Oh, how lovely. If only you'd met some viewers out there.
If you're from Tallahassee and you watch 2Gay Mats, comment below. I was just in your town. So, you know, we're a little late for the Valentine's Day
But it's
thing.
never too late for love.
It's never too late, and like, whatever, these rules aren't real.
Okay.
Like, you're all gonna have to deal with it. So we decided, instead of talking about the people that are matches,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about our worst dates ever.
All right, because there's no better time to wallow in the worst date ever
Then on Valentine's Day.
Day.
Valentine's month.
Yes.
Whatever.
And February in general.
So, what's your...
Oh, what's my first?
Yeah, we each have
Oh my
three.
god. So there was this guy that I had been talking to in Okakibit for a while, and he was a burlier man, handsome guy, but we meet, and he's very physically touchy when we meet. And I'm kind of not generally that person, but I was feeling it from him. I will say, this point of the date, I was like, okay.
Was he hot?
He was hot.
All
And
right.
so I was like,
Maybe touch
yeah, you could touch me. And like, so we ate at the dinner counter, and like after the date, we like kissed on the street. It was a good kiss. It was a Friday. I was feeling wily. He invited me back to his apartment. I was like, all right, let's go. So we go back to his apartment and we find his roommate, who is like the drunkest person I've ever seen. Like literally the sloppiest, drunkest person you've ever seen in your entire life. And so she like then joins the date as a third. I'm like, oh god. They open another bottle of wine and he begins to catch up. You know, I drink from time to time. I like a drink, but like not that much on a first date. And so then it got to the point where he was like, why aren't you drinking as much? You need to loosen up. You need to drink more. Why aren't you drinking as much? And I'm like, oh, I thought I was on a first date and trying to make a good impression. Clearly you are not. Through the drinking, we got a lot of truth out of this person. He told me he was a white man. And
I thought he was like, he told me he was a white man.
No. His roommate drunkenly said something about, oh, my mom is married to the most boring little white guy. But all the guys that like X person brings home, she's so into. Like, she loves a fit black guy. And I'm like, so are all the guys you bring home black? And he's like, I mean, yes, but like, it's just not because of anything, but I just think black people are just so much more beautiful, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay, I don't love that
Thank
about
you,
you,
sir,
thank you, I appreciate it. He then jumped to, was like, oh, like, I can't wait to meet your family. Where is your family from? I'm gonna meet your family. Where are they from?
Whoa.
And exactly, it's our first date. And I'm like, oh, well, they're from Atlanta. And he's like, oh, take me to Atlanta, you're gonna have to keep me on a leash. And he was implying that there are a lot of gay black men there. And that was a choice. He just was a lot. And like, but for some reason I was attracted to and I was interested in him. And I remember telling Matt Steele and our friend Corey later on about this person. And I was like, he kind of like did this and this and this and all of these things. But like, I think I still like him. And they were like, you can never see this person again.
I forgot about all these details. I just remember him like coming home and being like, so like, yeah, I was like kind of attracted to him, but like he did this and he did this and he did this
he
and
like
he did this and
he
he
was
did
all
this.
about touching me as if I was a piece of fruit. Like he like was checking if I was right. And he was like, would tell me things about my body he didn't like, and he'd be like, oh, we're gonna have to do something about that.
Oh, I remember hearing that part and just being like, absolutely not.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
First date.
First of all, the fact, there is nothing worse that someone can say to me than you need to loosen up.
Right.
If you ever think someone should loosen up, literally never tell me. He was crazy. He's a crazy person.
We did set up a second date that got canceled, and then I broke up with him. But then I was always a little nervous, like, he does have my address from that second date. Like, is he gonna kill me?
Shit, if he kills you, he's killing my ass.
Well,
too.
you know, we had a lovely run, didn't
God,
we?
that's the first story you're telling.
Yes.
That's a horrible date.
That was a bad date.
My first date that was bad is really harmless.
Yes.
Basically, you know those people in life who you just talk to them and like every opinion that they have is blatantly wrong. Like it's just like you have horrible taste.
Yes.
And the way you express your horrible taste is in a horrible way. Every single thing I said I liked, he was just like, oh, that's awful. oh, this is terrible. And everything he was like, I love, I was just like, ooh. First of all, he said he had been living in LA for 5 years, and I told him, like, we were talking about, like, different roads and everything, and I said something like, oh, you know, the 405, and he was like, I don't know what that is. And I was like,
what?
And I was
oh, come on, I don't know what anything
because he didn't have a car. Okay. And so he's like, well, I don't drive. And I'm just like, but you've heard people talk about the 405.
And like, if he takes like a lift or like, you know,
there are literally like 3 major highways running through LA.
And the 405 is like the most important one.
It's the most important one. But we ended up getting into not a screaming match, but a very verbal altercation. Because we were talking about musicals, and he liked musicals. And this was around the time the Into the Woods movie had come out. And I was like, did you see Into the Woods? And he was like, no, I don't like Into the Woods. And I was like, oh, what do you not like about Into the Woods? And he was like, well, it's just like one of those gay musicals. And I was like,
oh no.
And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, Into the Woods is just like, it's so gay.
There is nothing worse than being on a date with a man and having them refer to something lame as gay, because it's like, sweetie, you're on a date with a man, hello.
And I was like, well, what musicals do you like, sir? And he was like, oh, you know, the cool musicals, like Wicked. And I was like, wait a minute, stop the goddamn presses. You are going to call Into the Woods a gay musical, but not call Wicked a gay musical? I can think of fewer musicals that are like an allegory for homosexuality than like Wicked. Like, it's just like, and just, it's all divas belting and singing high notes. Like, Wicked is quite gay. And I think he was, and so we were yelling at each other about it, and I think what
were you in public yelling?
Yes. And I think what he was trying to say was just that, like, Into the Woods was gay because it was, like, older and, like, lamer or whatever. First of all, old musicals are brilliant. Second of all, like, Into the Woods is not old. It's literally from the 80s. That counts as contemporary. And just, like, your way of explaining what is a gay musical and what is not a gay musical literally makes no sense. The whole date ended in an argument. And of course, me driving him home because he didn't have a car.
Oh, no, that's the worst part. I hate when you get in an argument and you're like, oh, but you need a ride and I have to give it to you because I'm not a bad person. But, like, I never want to see you again. Another bad date that I just thought of. That was dating a guy for like a bit. We were like a month into dating, like maybe like 9th, 10th date or so. But things were petering out on his end. I was still very in, but like I could tell he was a little out. Last date, we go for sushi and he's just like not making any effort in talking. And it's just like, I am doing all of the heavy lifting, all the light lifting, everything that's being lifted is by me. He just like, just hated me. Like, and I was just like, I don't know what this happened. Like, we've had good dates so recently. And then at some point, obviously, as most of my dates do, the conversation turned to Vanderpump Rules. At the time, I was in a Vanderpump Rules fantasy league that I was also running. But I was winning, I was expressing how I would win, and I was so excited. And then the first time he like perks up to say anything to me on this date, he turns to me and he goes, you know, I will never watch that show with you. And I was like, oh! Excuse me? We had just finished watching some ridiculous hipster cartoon on Cartoon Network. I don't even remember what it was called, but I was like, I don't care about that. But I watched it because you liked it. And like, why can we do all of your things and we can't do my things? Like, and also you told me you liked Chrisley Knows Best, which is like maybe the stupidest reality show of them all. It's like,
Chrisley Knows Best? Who's that?
He's this like southern, like effeminate man in this family. That's what that show is about.
I've seen that.
It's ridiculous. So that was our last date. Long story short, he just was too cool for school.
And you know what? Lesson to learn: the boy who hates everything is gonna wind up hating you.
Get Lost Visual EP, available mostly now.
Well, my most recent bad date was...
Ooh, this is bad. This is bad.
And it was the end of 2017. And as y'all know, I hated 2017. 2017 sucked. I matched with this guy, I think on Hinge. And
Love Hinge.
We were talking, and he was like real attractive. Like, I was like, yes. He was a singer, like, I was so into it, and he was very friendly. He was just like, well, like, what are you doing tonight? Let's hang out. And I'm just like, great, let's not waste any damn time. Let's go on this date and see if it works. And he was like, oh, do you want to just walk around? I was like, sure, love just walking around, talking, no agenda, whatever. So, I get to him. First thing he does, before a hug, he reaches his arms out, and I'm going in for the hug. And he pushes his fingers through my hair. And I was just like, do not ever run your fingers through my hair.
Or anyone's hair.
Or
Like,
anyone's
it's like,
hair.
I don't know you.
I don't know you. And he like pulled it a little and was like, wow, it is real. And I was like, LOL, yes it is. So we start walking. And I'm just like walking casually and I'm like dangling my keys in my hand. And immediately he just goes, you're gonna need to put those keys in your pocket. And I was like, I'm sorry. Matt Palmer knows this, and I'm sure y'all have figured it out. If there's one thing I do not like, it's an overtly aggressive guy. A cocky, just domineering, controlling guy. Just the biggest turn off.
No, you have to be the controlling one.
No, I'm not controlling. So I was just like, I'm sorry, and he's just like, yeah, it's just driving me nuts because I feel like you're gonna like run away and like drive away from me. And I was just like, well, I'm not. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'm gonna keep my keys in my hand. Thank you. He just brings up past relationships right away, which I'm like, okay, this is sudden, but whatever. I have nothing to hide. He's talking, he's like, yeah, I just recently broke up with my ex. And I was like, oh wow, so like, you know, how long have you been single? And he's like, well, I broke up with him on, you know, the 18th. And I was like, it's the 20th. So you broke up with him 2 days ago. And he was like, the 18th, yeah. Yeah, I guess it was 2 days ago, yeah. Yeah. So then he like was gonna drive me back to my car. And the minute I sat down, he put his hand in my inner thigh and like grabbed it. And he's like, hope you don't mind, but I'm really affectionate. And I'm like, And so then we're, you know, just sitting there talking in his car, and he's like, so what are you looking for, like, in a relationship? And I hate that question on the first date. So I was just like, oh, you know, I like, you know, looking for this, blah, 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 bullshitted some sort of answer. And he was just like, and I was like, what are you looking for? And he was just like, I'm looking for someone to come home to, and, you know, preferably he'll be there waiting for me.
What?
Preferably in a thong. And I was like, oh. Then he started bragging about his penis, and I was like, that's lovely. And he was like, I hope you don't mind, I hope you're not uncomfortable, I hope you're not uncomfortable. And I'm just like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. So then he asks me, so, you know, what are you, he was from another country, so he had an accent. I just wasn't giving him an accent this time.
You don't need to give him an accent.
Like, so, you know, what are your biggest passions in life? And I was like, oh, you know, my friends, my family, blah, 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 blah. Just gave him another vague answer, and I was like, what are your biggest passions in life? And he literally says, penetration.
Oh.
Penetration was his biggest passion in life.
You couldn't even just say sex, which would have still been ridiculous.
Penetration. And I'm like, wow, what a hopeless romantic.
Ah, yes, how beautiful.
Oh,
why
God.
isn't that on a card? Hallmark,
know.
listen up.
So I got to my car, and as I'm driving away, I was just like, fuck 2017!
Yeah, and I felt like you hadn't been on a date in a while. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm really gonna go out on a limb, try something I wouldn't normally do. I bet I'll get great things in return.
No.
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 Men just disappoint.
You know what? This year, 2018, we're gonna avoid them. Because I mean, not to toot our own horns or like count our chickens before they hatch, but 2018's going great.
We haven't been able to like put out like a regular Zuki Mats video in like a little while because like, we've been really busy.
Really busy.
Doing like stuff we want to do.
Yes, like
we want to do this too.
Of
but,
course.
But like other stuff.
Yes.
You know, but
following our hearts, following our dreams, following our goals.
Following our
achieving.
Destinies, our dest.
We are Destiny's children.
We are. I'm the Beyonce.
No, you're not.
I might be.
No, you're not. She's the singer.
You're the Farrah.
Fuck you.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. Tell us below, do you have any dating horror stories? Tell us if you want to hear, are they as bad as ours? Is your biggest passion penetration? Tell us below.
Tell us below.
Follow us on Twitter at Matt Palmer Music.
And it's Matt Steele.
And we'll be back soon with another brand new 2K Mats.
Bye guys.
Bye.